California is where I live.
and his henchmen victimized an entire continent and exterminated millions in his quest for a so-called master race. But the concept of a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed master Nordic race didn't originate with Hitler. The idea was created in the United States and cultivated in California decades before Hitler came to power. California eugenicists played an important although little-known role in American eugenics campaigns for ethnic cleansing. Eugenics was a pseudoscience aimed at improving the human race. In its extreme racist form, this meant wiping away all human beings deemed unfit, preserving only those who conform to a Nordic stereotype. Elements of the philosophy were enshrined as a national policy by forced sterilization and segregation laws, as well as marriage restrictions enacted in 27 states. In 1909, California became the third state to adopt such laws. Ultimately, eugenics practitioners coercively sterilized some 60,000 Americans, barred the marriage of thousands, forcibly segregated thousands in colonies, and persecuted untold numbers in ways we are just now learning. Before World War II, nearly half of coercive sterilizations were done in California, and even after the war, the state accounted for a third of all such surgeries. Eugenics would have been so much bizarre power talk had it not been for extensive financing by corporate philanthropies, specifically the Carnegie Institution, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the Harriman Railroad fortune. They were all made with some of America's most respected scientists from such prestigious universities as Stanford, Yale, Harvard, and Princeton. These academicians espoused race theory and race science, and then faked and twisted data to serve eugenics' racist aims. Stanford President David Starr Grodent originated the notion of race and blood in his 1902 racial epistle, Blood of a Nation, in which the university scholar declared that human qualities and conditions such as talent and poverty were passed through the blood. In 1904, the Carnegie Institution established a laboratory complex at Cold Spring Harbor on Long Island that stockpiled millions of index cards on ordinary American citizens. As researchers carefully plotted the removal of families, bloodlines, and whole people. From Cold Spring Harbor, eugenics advocates agitated in the legislatures of America, as well as the nation's social service agencies and associations. The Harriman Railroad fortune paid local charities to seek out Jewish, Italian, and other immigrants in New York and other crowded cities and subject them to deportation, confinement, or forced sterilization. The Rockefeller Foundation helped found the German eugenics program and even funded the program that Josef Mengele worked in before he went to Auschwitz. The superior species the eugenicist movement sought was populated not merely by tall, strong, talented people. Eugenicists craved blonde, blue-eyed Nordic types. This group alone, they believed, was fit to inherit the earth. In the process, the movement intended to subtract emancipated Negroes, immigrant Asian laborers, Indians, Hispanics, East Europeans, Jews, dark-haired folk, poor people, the infirm, and anyone classified outside the gentrified genetics lines drawn by American raceologists. How? By identifying so-called defective family trees and subjecting them to lifelong segregation and sterilization programs to kill their bloodlines. The grand plan was to literally wipe away the reproductive capability of those deemed weak and inferior, the so-called unfit. The eugenicists hoped to neutralize the viability of 10% of the population at a sweep until none were left except themselves. 18 solutions were explored in a Carnegie-supported 1911 preliminary report of the Committee of the Eugenics Section of American Breeders Association to study and report on the best practical means for cutting off the defective germplasm in the human population. Point number 8 was euthanasia. Eugenics leaders believed American society was not ready to implement an organized lethal solution, but many mental institutions and doctors practiced improvised medical lethality and passive euthanasia on their own. One institution in New Lincoln, Illinois, fed its incoming patients milk from tubercular cows, believing a eugenically strong individual would be in need. 30 to 40% annual death rates resulted in Lincoln. Some doctors practiced passive eugenicide, one newborn infant at a time. Other doctors at mental institutions engaged in lethal neglect. Nonetheless, the eugenicide marginalized. The main solution for eugenesis was rapid expansion of forced education and sterilization, as well as more merit restrictions. California led the nation, performing nearly all sterilization procedures with little or no due process. In its first 25 years of eugenics legislation, California sterilized 9,782 individuals, mostly women. Many were classified as bad girls, diagnosed as passionate, oversexed, or sexually wayward. At the Sonoma State Home, some women were sterilized because of what was deemed an abnormally large clitoris or labia. Even the U.S. Supreme Court endorsed aspects of eugenics. In its infamous 1927 decision, Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote, "It is better for all the world, instead of waiting to execute degenerate offspring for crime, or to let them starve for their imbecility, society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough." This decision opened the floodgates for thousands to be coercively sterilized or otherwise persecuted as subhumans. Years later, the Nazis at Nuremberg trials quoted Holmes' words in their own defense. Only after eugenics became entrenched in the United States was the campaign transplanted into Germany, in no small measure through the efforts of California's eugenicists, who published booklets idealizing sterilization and circulated them to German officials and scientists. Hitler studied American eugenics laws. He tried to legitimize his anti-Semitism by medicalizing it and wrapping it in more palpable, pseudo-scientific facade of eugenics. Hitler was able to recruit more followers among regional Germans by claiming that science was on his side. Hitler's race hatred sprung from his own mind, but the intellectual outlines of the eugenics Hitler adopted in 1924 were made in America. Only after eugenics became entrenched in the United States was the campaign transplanted into Germany, in no small measure through the efforts of California's eugenicists, who published booklets idealizing sterilization and circulated them to German officials and scientists. Hitler studied American eugenics laws. He tried to legitimize his anti-Semitism by medicalizing it and wrapping it in more palpable, pseudo-scientific facade of eugenics. Hitler was able to recruit more followers among regional Germans by claiming that science was on his side. Hitler's race hatred sprung from his own mind, but the intellectual outlines of the eugenics Hitler adopted in 1924 were made in America.